All right. So remember that I always post the do file and the stata code on Blackboard for the week? So this week's it's called surveillance. So surveillance.do. You can see the file here. So I saved this on Blackboard and you can open it. So when you download surveillance.do, it'll open in what's called the stata editor there. Highlight all of it, press the play button, the do button, and it'll do the entire program. So just give it some time, it'll go. What we're doing is we're comparing different, what they call interventions. In the book, they call MRSA, it's a type of MRSA disease, but I'm just going to do it for COVID because that's sort of relevant topic. And you can see what we're making is a data dashboard for the intervention to increase surveillance. So before the intervention, after the intervention. So say the intervention is testing someone for COVID every week or testing someone for COVID every 2 weeks. Building a testing center, something that before the intervention you have some certain number of cases or patients that you have in these different settings. Overall patients, medicine patients, geriatric patients, elderly patients, ICU, intensive care unit patients. And we're comparing how much surveillance we have before and after the intervention. So the intervention is something that increases surveillance, like a testing requirement or a testing center, and then after it we have more. 1 is yes, 0 is no. 0 is always equal to no, 1 is always equal to yes. I labeled it for patients so you could see 0 no, 1 yes. Medicine 0 no, 1 yes. Surgery. So we have 1,000 people in the population, 1,000 patients before and after the intervention. And then we're going to count how many have COVID, are identified as COVID, before and after we build a testing center, before and after we require testing, and so on. Right, so this is just the best way to do the assignment is to open the do file, highlight all of it, press play, and it'll do the entire thing all the way through the graph. In this case, the graph's a data dashboard where it has the graph of before and after for each of the things. So the program, it just makes a table of the data for each thing, each setting, overall patients, medicine patients, and so on. In the p-value, PR is probability. That's the probability that it's statistically significant, the probability of observing that data. If the p-value is less than 0.05, so if PR is less than 0.05, we say it's statistically significant difference, that the intervention statistically significantly increased testing, increased surveillance. Did the intervention work? Is that PR, is that probability less than 0.05? And then we graph it before and after. When you click window, you could go to the different parts of it. So the do file editor here with all of the code. I give you that on Blackboard. The data here, you can see all the different things it did. Make a graph for each of them, combine them, make a table of each. Do what we call a hypothesis test, right? The hypothesis test is a chi-square test where it calculates that probability, the PR, and if it's like 0.00, then yeah, the intervention worked. If it's less than 0.05, so if it's 0.04, we'll still say it worked. If it's 0.19, then no, we're not going to say it worked. If the p-value is bigger than 0.05, if PR is greater than 0.05, so it's like 0.07, then it did not work. So yeah, maybe there's more patients detected afterwards, but we don't have enough data. And then what we have to do is we have to go back to the funding agency, say the CDC or the National Institute of Health is giving us money for this program. We say we need another testing center. We're increasing testing, but we don't have enough data. We need to collect more data. We need more patients in the study, more patients in the program to see if it worked. Okay, that's a p-value 0.019 there. So yeah, overall it worked. It increased it, right? You can see medicine increased it from 1 before, 16 afterwards, PR 0.000, that's less than 0.05, so it's statistically significant difference. That the 16 patients detected after are statistically significantly greater than how many before. They're 0.179. 0.179 is not statistically significant, so it didn't work for that group of patients. But now this one's 0.00 again, so it worked. 0.000 worked. Again, it's testing if that PR is less than 0.05, if the probability is less than 0.05. Make a graph for each of them. Graph the patients overall. See, it increased, right? Building a testing center would increase the COVID cases detected. or requiring testing would increase the COVID cases detected. Make a graph of each of them, save them, because then we're going to combine it in what we call a data dashboard. And that's comparable to what they see on university websites or the CDC website, where they have a data dashboard where it's data from all these different settings collected and compiled together. In this case, we have patients overall, then we have medicine patients, surgery patients, intensive care unit, ICU patients, geriatric or elderly patients. Again, in each case, we're going to have higher, more COVID cases after than before. But also, if it's statistically significant, whether that PR underneath your table is less than 0.05, it's statistically significant. If it's greater than 0.05, it's not statistically significant. So even if it increased, we can't statistically detect the difference. We don't have enough data. But if PR is less than 0.05, we say it worked. We say we could detect the difference. And that the probability is low enough that we would not have observed that data by chance. Something was due to the intervention. Now just make a graph of each of them and save them. See, it's putting the file names .gph is how it saves the stated graph. So I'm not writing that when I'm making the graphs. It knows what it is. Graph save ICU, replace it. It'll make a file called icu.gph, save a stated graph. But then when I combine them, it's going to make me put the GPH suffixes in there, and you'll see that as well. You see, make a graph of each of them separately and save those graphs, because then we'll combine them into the data dashboard, graph combine. And now just list them out. So patients.gph, remember we saved a graph of the patients overall. Medicine.gph, a graph of before and after in medicine, surgery, in the ICU, the geriatric ward, the elderly patients, graph combine them. When I do that, it's going to combine all those different things and make what we're going to call a data dashboard. So a data dashboard for the effects of the intervention. And this is based on the book chapter where it's MRSA, MRSA surveillance in a university hospital. It's more like COVID surveillance on a university campus. Sort of a spin-off, our spin-off of the book chapter. So this is the graph you'll put in your PowerPoint slides for the week. I'll give you the do file here. You could just highlight it all, plus play in the top right, do where it has that play button. Highlight everything, press play. It'll do the entire thing, make the graph, give you all the tables and all the chi-square tests. It goes through, makes a graph of each of them. It'll combine them all. You just sit there and wait. It's going to take some time to do all of this. You can see the little stata wheel spinning around. At least on a Mac, there's a stata wheel is going to spin around if you do that. Okay, and that's the data dashboard there. So we have it for each of the different 5 settings. Patients overall, medicine, surgery, geriatrics, ICU, all combined into one giant graph. And that'll be the graph that you're going to present for next week. And what it also does is it gave me all the tables there. So then you can see, okay, 1 patient before in surgery, 4 after in surgery, but it's not statistically significant, 0.179. So in this case, we would say that it did not work for surgery, or we don't have enough data to show that it worked for surgery, because that p-value is 0.179 for surgery. Again, it's the p-value less than 0.05, statistically significant, intervention worked. P-value greater than 0.05, we don't have enough data to know whether or not it worked.